Hello everyone and welcome back to Run It Up number 104. We are here today playing some 25 cent, 50 cent, no limit Texas Hold'em on ultimatepoker.com, and I have something a little bit different in store for you guys today. We usually kind of do these Run It Ups where I kind of just do as I please, and this I guess is no different in that regard. But my plan for today is actually to kind of be a little bit more poker oriented than usual. I'm going to break down my decisions a little bit more clearly maybe than usual. We're going to talk a little bit more about strategy and tactics, that kind of thing. And whether you're more of an amateur or more of an intermediate, I'm sure all of you are at least intermediate. So we'll talk about a whole bunch of different things, but I'm going to try to keep the conversation mostly poker oriented for a change. So gonna fold here. This is the kind of spot where I think some amateur players make mistakes by calling. I don't think it's too common of a mistake, but the reasons why I would be folding here is because this guy has not got a lot of money, and he's already put 3 of his $13 in, and I don't believe we have the price to speculate with 7-6 suited. He just calls the re-raise, though, which you would have to imagine would be pretty strong. If he understands that this guy is raising in the first position, that indicates strength, and he made it really big, which usually indicates something decent, and then he defended that. You would think that Queen Latifah over there would probably have something. I bricked as to what her name was. I'm sorry, we've met before. I just don't remember. I'm sorry. And you would think that this guy is calling pretty often. Oh, just 2 aces. No big deal. Kind of surprised actually that he only had 2 7s. Not looking too good there, given that we buried a 7 ourselves. Sorry, friend. Sorry. Don't think that worked out too well for you there. Aces played it well, I guess. I actually think aces could have just called, actually, which is something that you don't see too often. But when he's already made it 3, you just call, and then you check to him and just check raise all in almost every hand, right? Or almost every time. He's going to probably end up calling. He's probably going to bet most flops. He's probably going to call once he gets pot stuck at that point. So I actually think calling is probably even a better path than re-raising there. You re-raise, it kind of looks scary. I mean, yeah, he's probably already committed, but I think calling is certainly a viable path. And actually, I think it's a great tool from the tool belt. That wasn't a great tool belt. That's a belt, and I pulled the... All right. But, yeah, I think it's actually a really great tool for tournaments. I think mixing in calls there with aces pre-flop in tournaments is really strong in a spot like that. So I'm going to bet here. It's possible that our opponent has now paired because he almost for sure had auto check fold on pre-flop. I think we could bet, but I don't think he's going to fold too often. A better hand than ours. I think once in a while it does go check. And in that case, it's possible we have the best hand against like 6-9, 9-10, 10-jack, but I don't think he has 9-10 or 10-jack too often because those hands probably wouldn't have snap check fold clicked, which is what I think he had checked off. So we just say, okay, I guess our king and jack is no good. I guess this one is not for me. And we just fold. I said it would be poker talk. I didn't say it would necessarily be like super coherent poker talk. Decide to defend here with the old Queen 8 of Hearts on the button. I think it's a perfectly reasonable spot to do so. I find that hands like this tend to be profitable with position against players who I will probably make better decisions than. So given that the preflop raiser didn't bet, I feel like he probably doesn't have very much. And then the guy in the big blind probably doesn't have too much either because he's just in the big blind and is priced in. So we're really only concerned about this guy here. And if only one player calls, we can win the pot on a lot of like scary or brick turn cards. So let's say one of these players decides to stick around, and the turn card is the 5. It's not a bad card for us to bet. Also, we improve on queens and 8s, and I think we win the pot relatively often beyond that flop bet, even if they do continue. And we win on the flop sometimes too, as we saw. So that was pretty nice there. I think it's the biggest pot we've won on Run It Up in the last week. Oh, that mightn't be true. I mean, it's not really true, but it feels kind of true. We've got slapped around by variance a little bit. What can I say? Pretty good turn card for us here. You would suspect that our opponent would at least somewhat likely be raising clubs on a low paired flop such as that. It would be a good opportunity to do so. Not going to bet a ton here. I obviously want our opponent to continue with hands worse than mine. And if our opponent check raises, I guess I'll consider doing something. We could also arguably check back, but I would like that more if we had the queen of clubs, because we just lose the pot when a club comes and he just bets. I mean, not all the time, but it's not a great experience for us. So I don't think I mentioned actually I started this video, but I'm in for $50, so I'm down 27 cents right now. Feels like a win. Feels like a win. I played for maybe like an orbit or two before we got started here, but not really too much. A little bit of history with the guy to my right, where he raised pre-flop with ace-7, bet queen, jack, or jack, queen, turn 6, river 3, bet turn, checked river. He had ace-7, he beat my ace-deuce. Didn't bet very big when he did bet on the flop and the turn, but so we won that pot there. Kind of a telling hand in that he had an ace and decided to like bet it twice for maybe he bet it for the right reasons. He's just like, yeah, this guy's got a straight draw, and just bet correctly. But we actually had a worse ace, so he just was betting for straight up value. But that's the only hand really that we saw here, and I think it's important to talk about the hands that will be impacting our decisions in this here video. If you've been watching Run Up for a while, I talk a lot about scavenging for information, right? The reason why poker players are superior to one another is because some are more able to take in information correctly in the long term than others. So we both play the same game of poker, but I'm taking in 25 bits of information and you're only taking in 15, or we're taking in the same 15, but I'm taking it in at a higher efficiency rate, or I'm doing better with it, or I can create better strategies around the information. All of these things are ways you can have edges in poker, and I think we'll talk about some of those methods today. Going to call here with 10-8 of puppy dog feet in the big blind. Could also raise. I think that would be fine as well. I've seen this guy raise out of the blind now a couple times. I actually think this is a pretty good flop to fight back on if he bets. I think it's good because we have 3 clubs, we have 2 overcards if he has a 5 or a 4, and I think there's a decent percent of the time he'll just check fold if he doesn't have a pair on the turn. Let's see what happens here. Not a spot that I always call. That's a pretty unfortunate turn card for us because he has aces far more often than we do. And I think we just fold to the pot size bet. Against some players, in some scenarios, you could consider doing something like this, but I don't think that tends to work too often against a guy we don't really know that well. I usually would just fold in the spot, but we would consider raising here, though, because he's probably betting that ace a bunch, and there's not too many hands that he's going to want to bet call and be like super happy about it, but I think folding is fine. I also feel like maybe it's my image at this point in my life, but people perceive that I'm usually like messing around in that spot, even though I'm not usually, but I feel like at this point in my life I get fought back on in spots like that pretty often, so I say, okay, you got this one, kid. He turned the turn card. That was, he turns an ace in that spot. And as the aggressor, whenever aces hit, you're typically going to win that pot far more often than the person who has not been aggressive. That makes sense, right? You're representing strength, something that comes that makes someone who's representing strength be even stronger, and then the other person goes, okay, you probably got this one. It's just makes sense. Look at this spot, for example, actually very similar to that. So this guy, I believe he just raised and bet every street, and I would go so far as to say that I would think Banana Toes wins this pot here like 75 before there's even betting going on, or maybe after betting goes on. But once you see him actually bet, 'cause maybe he checks and gives up sometimes. But regardless, once he bets, I think he wins that pot very often, either with no showdown or very often at showdown, which is why it's such a great spot, a great card for him to bet on the river there. So I think that is pretty much that. We've seen this guy limp a couple times. I don't think we've seen a lot out of it. He limp called in my blind the very first hand that I played, or sorry, he limp folded. He limped and I raised and he folded. So it doesn't necessarily mean particularly very much. It seems that this guy particularly, though, so if we're going to break down this guy to our right here, and we're not going to break him down fully. We don't need to leave him naked and exposed for you guys at home to just pick apart. That's right, naked and afraid. I just saw that entire series. I thought it was great. Although I'm not 100% sure why they have to be naked, but I enjoy the idea of it. If you're not familiar, they take these 2 people who are like survival enthusiasts and just put them in this place and say, okay, you get to pick an item, and then you just survive for, I think it's 21 days is how long they have to survive for. And it's called Naked and Afraid, and it's like a hilariously amazing, I think there are things they could do better, but it is like amazing. I thought it was a super interesting series. all in all, as they go to these wild places and try to make the most of their situations. And there is a weird companionship. By the way, do we just flop 3 of a kind? Is that even allowed anymore? I'm just saying. I feel like it's been a while. What does it mean that it's the devil's sign? No, thank you. I've won enough here. I won $1.50. That's great. $1.75 actually. Thank you. Yeah, I don't want to break this guy down too much, but based on that fact that he has been limping, I would say that we can kind of divide the hands he plays into certain categories. Now, we can't do that yet, but because we know this guy, let's say this guy is in the hijack. So that's so he's to our right, so this is good to know. So this guy looks at a card, looks at maybe even 2 cards. So he looks at his cards and he goes, what are we doing here? Are we calling? Are we raising? Are we folding? So because we know this guy actually has 3 piles to put in, because not everyone does that. Some people just raise or fold, which is closer to correct, I feel. So we know this guy, though, has 3 paths. So we start to figure out, okay, well, what does he call with? What does he raise with? Is it mood-based? When he's mad, does he raise? When he's happy, does he call? Does he call with like speculative hands? Does he call with weak aces? Does he call with suited aces? Does he call with suited cards? Does he raise with premium hands? Does he raise with weak hands at all? Does he ever try to steal? So these are all the questions that I would ask about my opponent and that we would try to develop in a opponent profile as we were going to play with him, especially if we were going to play with this guy for a long period of time, which is why note-taking is such a powerful thing all in all. Defended here reduces. You could also actually have re-raised here. I could have played this more aggressively. I think that would have been fine as well. But I decided just to flat call. I actually think raising would have been fine. But, we call. We're just sight mining, basically. We're trying to just play a pot 3 or 4-handed and try to add a deuce to our collection. Just another deuce. Oh, yeah, rocking. I thought, because, we haven't won in so long, I feel like we really need to turn it around. So I was like, what can I break out that would be almost for sure going to help with the run good? And I thought the Helwani Nose shirt, the Helwani Nose shirt, I thought. An old standby, old faithful Helwani Nose, I thought, I thought that would do us some work. But so far it hasn't. But tis merely a fetus of a session. We have a ways yet to go. Just decided to fold here against, again, the $2 raise is kind of scary. We could raise and, I think calling is the worst option. We could raise and do whatever. But what's the point? It's a cash game, there's no real super pressure here. We'll open this if it's folded to us. If it is not, then I suppose we will not be winning this hand. 1 1/4. Why 1 1/4? I don't know. It's a reasonable size. You could make it 150. Could make it $1. I think any of those numbers are very reasonable. They all have upsides, and I think the answer when people ask, well, why do you make it $1.25 and not make it, why don't you make it more than that? Or I think 250 is fine. Or less than that or whatever. I really think that the answer is got to be dependent on who you're playing. It depends on what these guys do based on your raises. And if they treat, it all just comes down to how your opponents react to it and what they do. And imagine this, if you're still doubtful of me, imagine this as a scenario. Imagine we're playing a tournament. And I'm going to be calling this here against the small check raise. He did do this small re-raise thing when he had aces before, but that was pre-flop. And I feel like I'm not yet convinced this guy has this beat just yet. It's possible, but there's not really a ton of hands that he can have that make a lot of sense. I don't think he would even play flush draws this way like this, because the small tiny check raise with flush draws, really? I don't know. I think that at this point, I am probably going to just fold. We don't beat any of the aces. And if he does have us beat with a set or a 2-pair, we're in pretty bad shape. And if he has a flush, we're in even worse shape, obviously. I just find it, if you had to give me 2 piles of things to check off and say, does he have his beat or does he not have his beat, which is more likely? I think he has his beat. I'm not really sure how, but it would be kind of like a bizarre sort of a situation where he just looks down at Queen 10 and is like, all right, I'm check raising this bitch. No, for the minimum. I don't know if I'm buying that. Now, one of the advantages of playing longer sessions is that we can watch this guy and be like, well, is he check raising here with every gut shot? Is he check raising here with every pair? And when we play with this guy long enough, we can figure that out. But assuming that he is capable of those things, I think, is a mistake. But we were talking about building this guy's opponent profile, the guy to our right, and kind of just figuring out what he does, what with certain hands and stuff like that. And I think I actually was on to the next topic. I was talking about Helwani Knows, the old Ariel Helwani shirt. Went to a good cause. Charities, of course. Great thing. Was there something else I was talking about after that? Who knows? Whoever knows. It all just blurs. 104 episodes. Who even knows? Is this kid even still talking? Who understands what's going on? Certainly not me. So we're going to try to play this session out for a little bit longer, obviously. See what we can do. I do think that I did a session last week with D Moon Girl where we played for 2 hours, and I thought that was actually really good for several reasons. I've been thinking about doing longer shows anyway. It's funny because I've been debating length of shows, generally speaking, as like a concept, because I think that doing longer shows is better for poker because you build more reads, there's more interesting hands, the hands tend to be deeper. If it's a tournament, then you go deeper in the tournament, and I think there's a possibility to do like a live stream. I could do this show live for a longer period of time with the hole cards now. And I think that's a pretty sweet thing, all in all. And it hasn't been done really in poker before. And if there's one thing we like to do on Run It Up, it's innovate. Nobody else cares about poker on the internet, making videos. No one else really seems to care that much. But I care. You guys care. At least like 28% of you guys care a lot. So I feel like there's some room for innovation and things. And I've got some ideas actually for some different sorts of these longer videos for the next week or so. I want to try... I also run the theoretical conversation in my head of like, do I discuss or do I just surprise? I feel like I've mostly went with the surprise form of my life, generally speaking, for Run It Up. You know, like, hey, we got this going on. But, did you like how I reenacted what surprising is like? In case you didn't know what surprising is, hey, I got this thing for you. Wow. What is going on? What in the world? I knew as soon as I promised that I would make it a poker heavy episode that like nothing would happen poker wise, and I would just babble for, you know, however long that it was going to go for. But that's fine. It's Run It Up, right? I hooked you all with this promise of poker, and then I was just like, you actually don't even understand what you're signing up for. I'm going to check back here because I don't feel like he folds better hand than ours. Don't think he calls it much worse than ours. And even though I suspect that we could very well have the best hand on the turn, I'm not quite sure of that. You know, I don't think he's folding better than us. Don't think he's calling worse than us. I'm surprised he doesn't bet this river because I thought he was at least somewhat likely to have an 8 and would bet a king or an 8, I would think. We probably just win. He has some weird ace high or... Oh, just 7-5. Such bad shape on the flop. You don't even know. He doesn't even try to bluff. He just check calls and just plays down. Okay. So that was the kind of a hand that I would consider to be pretty telling. I think he played his hand okay, except for the fact that he called on flop, which doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, why, what, you know, if you're calling on flop, you need to do something, not always, but, you know, you have to, and maybe it's okay if he has devious intentions that just don't work out well because the turn card is really scary. So, I mean, I guess it could be all right, but going to re-raise here. I have decided that against this guy, I think we should be raising out of the small blind and not calling. Sometimes you can call, but there was a hand I played against this guy earlier where he raised a limp and then just flat called, and then we ended up betting flop, and he folded very quickly. So I kind of felt that he was like a little bit more fit or fold post flop. In this situation, getting like almost 2-1, a little bit better obviously, but almost 2-1 out of position against a guy I don't really know. I think we just fold. I mean, do I love it? I don't love it. We could do something calling, try to make a pair, go all in, but I think folding is fine against a guy we've never seen before. Hard to make judgments against a guy we have no concept of, and I think folding is fine. Also, of all the people that do re-raise there, I feel like we're more... I don't feel like we're getting exploited too often in that spot, because in that spot we do have pretty good hands to fight back with, all in all. Just did not in that spot. So... where were we? I think we were just talking about we were nowhere. We're just floating. It's all life is all about, you know? You just need to sponge experiences. Absorb, reflect, improve, move on. That's life for you right there, as far as I'm aware of how it should be. You know? Make some friends, learn some things, absorb, move on. There's actually, I know this isn't poker related, but it is card game related, so there's that. I don't know if this is a thing for sure, but some of you guys that live here in Vegas, are there a lot of you that first of all, I'm not sure how many of you even live in Vegas, but those of you that live in Vegas, are there enough of you that we could do like a live run it up draft? Anyone interested in like a Magic Born of the Gods draft? I would. I definitely don't have 8 Magic friends to draft with, but I probably have like a couple. And if like 4 or 5 of you guys is interested in that, we could definitely make that a thing. I think that would be a lot of fun. So if you guys are interested in that, you should let me know. It would be a fun thing to do. I think that could be awesome. Let me know either on Facebook, in the comments. I guess actually Facebook is probably the best way to do it. But yeah, let me know. Twitter, Facebook, whatever. Instagram me a picture of you having a 3 packs of Magic cards and a big thumbs up. Whatever, whatever you guys want to do. I'm happy to hang out. All right, so I'm going to start with a bet here. Could bet even a little bit bigger than this because we don't really want to encourage people sticking around, but I have a feeling that 150 is either going to work or it won't. You know what I mean? Either they're going to have an ace or club draw or probably even an 8, or they're not. And I think risking 150 to win 3 is probably going to work often enough to show a profit. And I don't think risking another 50 cents really changes things too much, right? Like in that spot, when I'm considering that situation, think about it like this. Exactly like this. Think of it like this, where there is a number. We went from the spectrum to a point on the spectrum, right? So the board is ace, 8, and 3. We've raised pre-flop, and now we're considering betting. Let's say we bet 50 cents. What do they do against 50 cents? Well, he's probably calling maybe with as bad as like pocket deuces. Maybe he calls with like king high. One of them calls with king high, stuff like that. We are not necessarily, and this is different for all your different opponents. So we're just building like opponent models here, right? So we say they're calling with 3s and 8s and the aces, obviously, and better. All pairs, maybe even king high. And then you bump it up 50 cents and go, well, what about for $1? What'll they do? And then you go, okay, I bet $1. Then they say, okay, they start to fold some of the more riff-raff kinds of things. Yeah. We're doing lots of hands today, kids, because it's like a 2 p.m. video. When do 2 p.m. videos ever happen? There's a dollar. A dollar does some certain things, and then you keep moving that little bar, and as you move the bar, you squeeze the hands they show up with, right? Theoretically, if I bet $50, what are the hands he's continuing with? Well, not very many. So somewhere on that spectrum is the sweet spot for where your profit is maximized theoretically with your hands that are nothing, and also with hands that are something. Also, there's a sweet pinpointed number that is like the optimal size to bet in that spot. By the way, this is a spot where I feel like a lot of people will just fold, but I can't. I have king high. I don't know what to do. Just fold. We at least have the best hands some percentage of the time with our king 8, and I think we win the pot unimproved sometimes against better hands. He just has like ace 3, turn is a 6, we win the pot. I guess at this point I will just believe him and fold. But this is a guy we'd like to see more of his cards at showdown. It just hasn't worked out well for us so far. Could have made a mistake here. He could have bluffed us off with the worse hand than king high. Could have had a queen jack kind of hand, just bet twice. It's a good board to do it. Good turn card for the preflop raiser to put pressure on us for. But yeah, you can always evaluate, in my opinion, not necessarily all the time you have to, but at least as like a thought process. Could raise here, not fold. Could just call as well. I think either is fine. I guess we'll just call. We'll call so I can explain. We'll have the explaining equity, It's always a great kind of like mental game to say, okay, well, what happens if I do this? And what happens if I do this? And like drag the slider in your mind and kind of figure out. I like that. I like the slider. You guys would know what it is. Okay, sure. Or I'm like playing some sort of like dusting a violin. That's exactly what you're doing. That's what you're doing, Jay Carver. You're dusting a violin. Sure you are. So I'm less confident that this bet would work on the turn here, because it's at least somewhat possible that this guy's got like 10s through kings and is just like, well, I'm gonna check back now because of the ace. So not only is he possibly not folding, but I don't think these guys are folding very often either. Either one of these guys could have an ace or some other kind of draw or scary thing that has a lot of equity against 2 7s. So I say no thank you. And it looks like we saved ourselves some money here. Down about $17 so far this session, but I once again don't feel like there was really too much that we could have done to avoid losing money, or could have made more money in some spots. I actually feel like we just haven't had great spots to mine from in a lot of these spots recently. But it's normal. It's normal. It's very normal. Variance is very scary. I actually don't know how Anderson Silva would say the word variance. It's a hard thing to come up against. By the way, big poker talk going on here. How Anderson Silva says the word variance. This variance. I don't know. I can't do it. I don't know. I'll have to ask him when I see him next time. I'll be like, yo, Anderson, how would you say this word? And then you show it to him. That's the face I think he would make. I don't know. I gotta ask Ariel Helwani to ask Anderson for me next time they hang out. Please help me. Gonna start here at the bet. Could have the best hand. Don't want to check back anyway. Give a free card to whatever nonsense he has here. Begin the path of getting a little bit of value, I suppose, out of hands that are worse than ours. Protecting our hands from hands that are just like two cards that have some equity against us. Interesting turn card here. I'm almost certainly going to bet because of the chance that maybe he folds better. Maybe he has Jack 10, Jack 9, something like that. Maybe a hand as bad as like King 4, blue, something like that. So going to bet here twice. Maybe he folds better. It's possible he calls with worse. He has, 10-9 with the 10 of hearts. I don't think it's particularly likely, but I think it's possible he calls with worse, and more probable that he folds better sometimes. And if he does call, well, we can always river or heart. That's always a possibility. And sometimes we'll win even on other river cards. So I don't think we have the best hand, and I really feel like we kind of need to bluff. I don't think he can call us too often here with just like a single pair kind of a hand. So let's say he has like King 8 of diamonds. This is a very hard river card to call us on. We have flushes, we have straights. Don't have two pair here or anything too often, but I think risking 850 to win 12, I think that works often enough, and it looks like our opponent thankfully agrees. Hey, we finally won one. Wow, who knew? We still can win them once in a while, boys. The old claw isn't quite decrepit just yet. We haven't quite made it to decrepit claw status, Boy, then that day comes. What a sad day that would be. My God, Jay Carver, your claw is pathetic. Listen, be nice about my claw, okay? Be nice, people. What are we even talking about, What, I don't even know. There are a lot of jokes that I have that are derived from other things, by the way. Really good job staying on track, Jay Carver. Really, really good job. There's a lot of jokes that I have that come from people. The get out of here joke. Lots of jokes I have that are derived from people or situations or whatever. I have no clue how that claw started. I have no clue. It was no one did it. I did it, and just it became a thing. I don't even know why. But I love the claw. You understand, you gotta just, it's like a velociraptor. That's right, ready to go, ready to claw. And then that's it. You just, that's it. Not a cat thing, though. It's, definitely not cat-like. Velociraptor-like, yes, clearly. Very big difference between the two. Boy, 30 minutes flew by. It's times having fun when you're talking about poker and the claw. I knew I couldn't talk serious poker for 30 minutes. I did in the when we do the hand history reviews for like Apprentice and stuff. Then that's easy because you just click next. Us ADD kids can just keep mashing the next button and then you just get another hand. But for a live session, I kind of think you can't just do serious poker for 45 minutes. I mean, I guess you could, but anyway, I guess I could pull some Dear Jay Carvers. There have been some good new ones, but yeah. All right, I will. I feel like there is like a 16-year-old Swedish wizard out there who was like, so I don't want to crush your soul, Swedish wizard, Johan. I don't want to crush your soul, Johan. All right. Let's pull some questions. All right. Dear Jay Carver, I used to find myself asking, what does he mean when Jason says this works often enough that, or the math says? I decided to download PokerStove, and it has helped me understand what you mean. Yes, that is definitely a fantastic tool. I can look at the range of hands you talk about your opponent possibly having, compare it with what you have, and look at the pot odds and implied odds, and based on the betting, I recommend it for any warrior who is working on sharpening their hand reading and decision-making swords. I completely agree, and I love how you wrote it here. This is great. Also, you need to schedule a run-up hike at Red Rock very soon. I could do that. That could be awesome. That could be a lot of fun. Good way for us to meet up, max all that adventure EV, have a great time. That sounds awesome. I would totally be up for that. Thanks for the email, DK. I would be up for that for sure. You know, hike it up with the Run-Up Legion. You know what I mean? They would never even know what hit them over there at the Red Rock Canyon. We were talking about that yesterday as like places you can't miss as far as like awesome places to hang out in Vegas or to go in Vegas. The less beaten path as well. And I've never been there, but I would love to go. Back home in Long Island, I was like just getting into like all the parks, and when I was a kid, I hiked relatively often with my dad, and then as an adult, I didn't until like the last year that I lived there. And then I had really started to, it's nothing crazy. I'm not, I'm not eating like raw snake to survive or anything like that, which apparently you can do, by the way. I had no idea. The things you've learned thanks to Netflix, I suppose. Could you bet? Or should be checked. So I'll talk about what I'm evaluating in a second, but I think I can make more money betting than with checking here. Maybe that's not so true. Once again, the answer to whether or not the answer to whether or not you should bet or check here is entirely opponent dependent and what your opponent thinks of you and all that. But for me, the reason why what I'm considering in that spot is there a higher chance of him bluffing when checked to than calling with worse than when we bet? And then, of course, there's the other side of it, which is, does he ever, like, bluff raise us if we bet? Like, which do we more often win the pot with? So there's a couple other, like, tiny ingredients for our cauldron, which has been malfunctioning recently. I think our cauldron needs to be re-ironed or some sort of maintenance. We gotta call the Toshiba supply center and ask them for a new cauldron, because clearly they're still Toshiba branded cauldrons. Why not? I don't see why they wouldn't make cauldrons if they can make drills. So I re-raised here with Queen Jack, which I think makes perfect sense, and against this kind of opponent we talked about, where he seems kind of like fit or fold in the small instances that we've seen him post flop in re-raised pots. So could we do something here that involves not folding? Yeah, I guess we could, but I think we just fold. I think that we are going to win this hand more often than not, and against a guy who we said is more fit or fold. And fit could mean just a flush draw in that spot. It could mean a straight draw in that spot. Could mean he has a pair and is like trying to protect himself against ace king or something like that. But because we're not like super sure what that means, and it's possible that that's just a bluff raise, he's just like, yep, I've got something, and that's great and all. And I mean, there's not too many hands there that he's going to want to raise and that we're going to fold a pair to. Like, I'm never folding, I don't even know if I'm folding sevens in that spot. Never mind something better than that. I don't think I would fold ace king either. There are too many hands that we beat with ace king. He just has flush draws or straight draws, stuff like that. So I think his raise only works a small percentage of the time. Not a small percentage of the time, but relatively small percentage of the time are we just straight up folding. And I think that just happened to be one of them spots. I think the play preflop is fine given our opponent profile and everything like that. It's a little bit higher variance than just calling, but I think it's fine. And probably shows a profit there. I believe probably shows a higher profit to raise and bet most flops than it does to call and play pots out of position against this guy. My gut tells me that that's better. Talking about the email that we got as far as the meat of it, I think there's another alternative to PokerStove, and that is Pro Poker Tools. If you've ever been on that site before, it'll blow your mind. If you ever want to learn poker and you were by yourself, isolated, you're in an igloo, just trying to run it up, out of your igloo. I just want a 2-story igloo one day. I'm sick of seal fishing, and you just want to break from all that. And I want to learn poker and escape. I would say that Pro Poker Tools is a fantastic tool to do that with, and one of those things where if I could learn everything, like if I could like straw up the knowledge of that and then ban it from anyone else ever seeing it again, I definitely would. It's absolutely a great resource for people who are looking to improve at poker. And there's lots and lots of levels and layers of good information there. So if you want to learn some poker, especially if you're math-based, or at least math-oriented enough to like those kinds of things, I really recommend it. In this spot, we raised his limp, which once again, we're not really quite sure what to make of his limps, but I thought that it was at least possible that he has in like the ace-4 sort of range, something like that. Having turned a double gut shot, we need a queen or an 8 to make a straight. I'm definitely going to bet here twice. I think that it's possible that he'll fold a better hand than us, certainly, given that we have a hand as bad as we do. And I think if the river card is like, I don't know, maybe like a 10 or a 7, we can also bluff on the river. If he has just like ace-4, it kind of puts him in a bad spot. I think he might fold just a straight-up king here right now. It's possible. And once in a while, he might fold a hand as good as like ace-5, something like that. Do I think that's happening all the time? No, I don't think that's happening all the time. And if he turns up ace-5, am I like loving it? No, I'm not loving it, but I'm not hating it either. You know, I think that there's still a decent chance that we just thread the old needle there. You know, that's right. The old glory arrow, straight through the eye. You know, very narrow target. So, yeah, I guess there's that. All right, we'll play probably a full another orbit, and then we'll probably wrap this video up because this is not meant to be one of these 2-hour sessions. But I'm definitely considering doing a couple of different videos in more of that kind of a vein. I have like I said before, talking about the surprise or not. I don't think it's a huge surprise because I've talked about it before. So this player has been at this table since the very beginning, and I think this is the first hand that Betty Wins has played over there. I feel like Betty Wins has been pretty tight, all in all. But I think if we call it, it's very likely to go 3 ways, and we can kind of just set mine. We do have like a pretty deep stack behind this. We're getting like 10 to 1 on our immediate stack to the price we have to call. You know, we're putting in 4, we have 40 behind. I have a feeling that this player is pretty strong, and if you make a set, we're likely to get paid, especially if it goes 3 ways to the flop. It's even better price than we thought we were getting. If we don't flop a set, we're in kind of a weird situation, obviously, but we just flop a set. That's a much better plan. Oh, I'm gonna quit this video if we if we win this hand. I'm just sitting out this hand. It's over. We're wrapping it up. If we can wrap up a win, I'm not really. I'm going to play an orbit because I don't want to hit and run, but all right. That's a pretty good turn card for us. Probably one of the few turn cards that will actually make me check. We could also bet like $6 or something, kind of bet like on the small side of things. I think we're actually going to bet because I'm a little afraid that this player is just not going to, like the kinds of hands that this player is probably going to continue with, single spades, red overpairs. I think those kinds of hands aren't necessarily going to bet at this point. So I think betting ourselves makes sense. I was actually pretty sure I was going to check, and then we just didn't. So at this point, we're thinking about what we can do to make the most money here. Given that we only have $30 and there's $40 in the pot, I feel like we can just shove. I don't think Betty Wins is calling us too often, but maybe this guy is. They both could be kind of weak, but I don't think checking is going to induce too many bluffs. You know, what are we going to do? Check here and then hope one of these guys with no pair is going to just put it in? I don't really think that's very likely. So there's also some chance you could be bluffing if we just had like, I don't know what. Oh, unfortunately 2 aces is not good. Well, we were right that we needed to make a set to win. At least that plan was correct. And hey, look, we did it. We made a full house and we won some money. Hey, look at that. Yeah, Doc August is happy because we're reloading the fish over here. That's right. The fish is getting richer. That's right. Reloading it. Hey, I'm not going to say we ran it up just yet, but we're on our way. No raise out of the big blind with deuce 3 offsuit. Take it. Take my 50 cents. It's all yours. Take it, one-eyed parrot man. Take it. I'm going to do my best, kids. I'm defending this victory. We need it. We need it badly. No no more blinds. No more blinds. Need to block up the win. We need it. We've been slapped around. I don't even remember the last time we booked like a 1 buy-in session. Please, we need to run it up badly. All right, just a couple more hands and we will have actually booked the win. Okay. Well, hopefully we don't get stacked by banana toes or double up, I guess, anybody. But, just can't think like that. That's bad thinking. I'm not even going to encourage it because it's fake bad thinking, but I'm not even going to encourage it. So if it folds to us, we're certainly going to raise. Surprise, surprise. Really? Raise. Interesting. I think this hand's good enough to re-raise. all right. I'm just gonna call. I think re-raising and getting it in for this guy is totally fine. We've been re-raising him a bunch. Our hand is so good. I actually think re-raising him is probably a better play, but I really want to book this win. So I just call. The EV is similar, but I think raising is probably a little bit better for straight up dollar value. Not gonna fold yet. I think calling is fine. We beat almost everything besides a queen, tens are better, or a queen. So we're going to start here with a call. If Betty Wynn sticks around, I will be a little concerned because she's been a little bit on the tighter side. Okay. If Game Time bets here, I'll be pretty tempted to just fold. It's possible we have the best hand. He has King 10, Ace 10, Spade, something like that. But with Betty Wins behind us, I think we just fold. We played this hand in a low variance way, and I think that kind of allows us to exit the hand at this point because we're just not sure. And, oh, sweet. Thank you, sir. You confounded me quite well with several of the plays we made this video. So, thanks, man. And, hey, we actually won money with your presence, so that's great. Gonna be raising it up here. One more for the road. You can't fold the 4 or 5 suited. All right, 101 dealer. You know what? 102. It's a new day. 102 dealer. Now I can actually associate the raise size with the episode number. We could do 104 if we were really trying to be cool, How's that for virality? Not really very good, Jake Carver. All right. Enough with you. Enough with you, sir. Sir voice. Pretty good turn card for us here. Probably going to be betting here twice. I don't really see a reason not to. Could have the best hand. Could maybe get him to fold a hand better than ours in some miraculous universe. I don't think that happens too often. At this point, if Betty checks, we just check. I don't think he folds better than us at this point. Don't think he calls it worse. He's not going to call it a deuce. Maybe would call with 3-5 once in a while, but I'm pretty happy with just checking. Okay, fair enough. Don't think that hand's ever folding at any point in this hand. That particular hand. Don't think there's very much we could do. Oh, man. All right. 104. Right, is this the episode 104? It is 104. All right. Raise it up, 104. Don't hurt us too badly. I just want 75 cents. 75 cents if we just wrap it up. Please. Uh-oh. It's all over, kids. It's all over. Well, I like 8 1/4. I actually thought 8 1/4 was where I was feeling. So I think 8 1/4 is right about where I want to be. We're so deep that, it encourages us to make it bigger rather than smaller. I actually think 850 probably even gets called more often than 8 1/4 because of the weird sizing. Like, I think calling 6 more is an easier task for most people than it is to call 8 1/4. $6 more, exactly. Flat price. I think that will encourage calling more so than 8 1/4. Pretty good flop for us. All in all. I can't quit if I stack this guy, obviously. That would just be very BM. Quite bad manner. 12 seems okay. Could have also checked, I guess. That would have also been fine. You could check raise all in here very easily. Lets him bluff if he just has, I actually think I messed his hand up. I should have just checked. Why do I think checking is better than betting? I think checking is better because let's say he has black, king, queen. We bet he just folds. We check, give him a chance to bluff. And the decision is the same anyway. We just get it all in. So if he has a hand like 2 red jacks, he's not folding either way. If he has his beat somehow, it doesn't matter either way because we're not folding. So I actually think I messed up that very last hand. And we clearly couldn't have got much more than nothing, but we at least had a shot at making more with the check there. So I think that hand is a tiny mistake. But hey, we ran it up. That's right. I know. It feels so weird. We started with less, ended with more. It's the run it up. Yeah. It's the heart of run it up. It's the peach of run it up. What kind of peach is like that? I don't even know. Anyway, hey, we ran it up. You should like the video if you enjoyed the fact that we ran it up, because hey, how else do I know you enjoyed the video unless you like the video? That's what it's there for. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Today was pretty fun. I enjoyed it. Hopefully you did as well. Let me know what you guys thought about the various things that I said about doing longer videos, different kinds of videos. Anything you guys want to see, you let me know in the comments below, because, you know, hey, I live to serve like a horse on a carriage. You know, you guys steer the carriage, I guess. I guess I'm the stagecoach. Is that the name of the guy that drives the coach? I'm the stagecoach. You're the passenger, but you direct the stagecoach. Anyway, if you're still watching at this point, thank you. I appreciate it. I had a good time. Hopefully you did too. I'll see you guys back for more very, very soon. Probably tomorrow. Definitely tomorrow. See you guys back for more very soon. Peace.